Thinking truly begins when the old stories no longer fail, but no longer suffice. Welcome to another story in the series From Wonder to Power, The Journey of Thought. Today, I want to show you how synthesis, from myth to thinking about being, emerges in the 6th to 5th centuries BCE, when Greek thought is forced to confront what it has already uncovered. Myth has not collapsed. Gods still speak, rituals still matter, symbols still organize life. But something has changed beneath the surface. Nature is no longer fully explained by divine intention. Order has entered the world through principles, necessity, balance, being, and change. And now these principles collide. One thinker claims only what is unchanging can be real. Another insists that change itself is the deepest truth. The old language cannot resolve this tension, and the new one has not yet settled, you know. This episode begins at that unstable midpoint. People no longer ask which god caused an event. They ask what it means for something to exist at all. Being becomes a problem. Change becomes a threat to certainty. Thought turns inward, examining its own tools. Here, philosophy is no longer discovery alone. It becomes synthesis, an attempt to hold together what experience shows and what reason demands. The world has not lost its meaning, but meaning now requires thinking. This is the moment when myth gives way not to disbelief, but to ontology. In Miletus, a young storyteller entertains children with tales of gods shaping mountains, rivers born from quarrels, storms stirred by jealousy. The stories turn the world into a drama of intentions, and the children listen, reassured. When the tale ends, one boy asks why the same mountain never changes its shape if the gods are so restless. The storyteller hesitates. The story has no answer. It explains through personalities, not patterns. For the first time, he feels the edge of its limits well. Nearby, Anaximenes, shaped by Milesian thinking, watches the exchange. He sits with the storyteller and shifts the question, not which god acts, but what process holds things together. Mountains rise through pressure, rivers carve through erosion, storms follow movements of air and heat. The answers sound colder, stripped of drama. There is no betrayal, no intention. Yet something aligns. Events no longer feel isolated, they belong to the same logic. Later, in the agora, a potseller overhears travelers arguing. One invokes Heraclitus and constant change. The other defends Parmenides and unchanging being. She does not follow the arguments, but she senses the difference. These are not stories meant to warn or comfort. They are attempts to grasp the world as a whole. Words like arche, apeiron, being, and necessity replace gods and omens. Seen from above, the shift is clear. Myth has long organized experience by analogy. Gods behave like people. Nature mirrors communal life. Meaning arrives through narrative. Now, explanation begins to move elsewhere. Thinkers search beneath appearances for structure. Events are explained not by who wills them, but by how they follow from what things are. As evening falls, the storyteller walks home, still thinking about the child's question. He does not abandon his tales, but he senses they skim the surface. Beneath them lies something harder and quieter, and in that space, thought begins to turn from myth toward being itself. At dawn on the outskirts of Elia, a young olive grower walks through trees planted by his grandfather. Leontios sees how unevenly they age. Some flourish, others weaken. A few still carry scars from a summer fire. Each year reshapes them. Bark splits, branches twist, leaves fall and return. To him, the grove looks like a loose collection of changing forms, held together only by memory. He begins to wonder what, if anything, truly stays the same. Later that morning, he meets Xenophanes, an older traveler known for questioning how people speak about gods and the world. Xenophanes listens, then asks a simple question. When the tree grows, is it still the same tree? Leontios answers yes without hesitation, and then stops. The leaves differ, the yield changes, the shape shifts, yet the tree remains one. Xenophanes explains that appearances multiply change, while thinking looks for what makes change intelligible. The task is not to deny alteration, but to ask what allows a thing to endure through it, you know. In the Agora, a lamp seller notices that complaints repeat every season. Faces change, but the pattern does not. Prices feel unfair, measures seem wrong. A passing thinker speaks of being and becoming, of what passes and what abides. She does not follow the argument, but she senses its truth. Beneath shifting events, something repeats. Seen from above, this question becomes central. If everything were only what it appears to be at a given moment, knowledge would collapse into description. Early thinkers begin to ask what persists through change, what allows recognition despite transformation. Being separates from appearance, essence from accident. As evening falls, Leontios trims a fire-damaged branch, trusting the tree will endure. He cannot name the problem, but he feels it. Change is no longer the whole story. Beneath appearances, something holds. Near the edge of the Agora, a shipbuilder sits awake in a modest house long after sunset. Menandros stares at tools that have repaired hulls for decades. Ships return from the sea changed by storms, rot and time, yet still recognizable as the same vessels. Tonight, his concern is not how to mend wood, but why anything holds together at all. If everything changes, why does the world not dissolve into confusion? And if something endures, why can it not be seen? Earlier that day, Menandros listens to travelers discussing thinkers from Miletus, Elea, and Ephesus. They do not speak of gods, omens, or rituals. They argue about being and change, necessity and principle. No stories are told, no divine motives invoked. Instead, the discussion circles a stranger problem: what it means for anything to exist in the first place. Menandros realizes this is not explanation meant to guide action. It is questioning aimed at the foundations of explanation itself. Seen from above, a quiet transformation spreads across the Greek world in the 6th and 5th centuries BCE. Thought turns inward, not toward personal virtue or ritual duty, but toward existence as such. Philosophy appears not as a system, but as a stance. Appearances are no longer accepted at face value. Reflection replaces narration. Argument replaces myth. Concepts begin to do the work once done by characters. As Menandros finally lies down, the sound of the sea reaches him through the open window. It is constant, yet never identical. For the first time, He senses that the world is not only something to endure or appease, it is something to be understood. And in that shift, philosophy is born. Something has settled by the end of this journey. The world has not lost its stories, but they no longer carry the full weight of explanation. What once came from gods and myths is now carried by concepts. Being, change, necessity, principle. These words do not entertain or console, they organize thought. What is gained is a new kind of clarity. People begin to separate what appears from what must be the case. They learn to ask not only what happens, but what makes anything happen at all. Knowledge becomes something that can be argued, corrected, and extended beyond tradition well. Something is also left behind. The world feels less intimate. Nature no longer reacts to human hopes or fears. Meaning is no longer guaranteed by story. It must be built through thinking. And that work is harder and less reassuring. This synthesis does not resolve the tensions between unity and change, appearance and reality. It preserves them. Philosophy begins not by closing questions, but by keeping them open. From this point on, thought will no longer return to myth for its foundations. It will turn to being itself, and that decision will shape every path philosophy takes from here.